Okay, in this video, I'm going to cover creating the jaw joint, the jaw controller, and connecting the jaw joint to the jaw controller. We have a series of different types of things we're going to do here. We're going to orient constraint as well as use set-driven key, as we did previously with the foot, specifically the bank control. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my rigging tab, and I'm going to go skeleton and create joint, and in my side view, I'm going to place it right at the base of the chin, basically, and press enter. Oh. I am then going to name it jaw joint, and I'm going to hold shift and select the joint in the back of the skull. Mine's named neck 3 joint, and I'm going to press P. So basically what that does is it allows my jaw to be controlled and driven by the head controller. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a create curve tool, EP curve tool, and hit the settings box. In here, I'm going to change it, I believe we had it on linear, we're going to change it to cubic. And in my front view, I'm simply going to hold X and click once on one grid point, once here, and press enter. And I'm going to name this jaw CTRL for jaw controller. You'll notice that it does give you a subtle curve for it, and that's a pretty cool and nice thing to do because it sort of matches the jaw line around the face. And I'm going to now modify center pivot because it creates this pivot point at the very center. It's 0, 0, 0, the origin. Center pivot. And then I'm going to snap it to our jaw joint. I'm also going to rotate it slightly, and then I'm going to check into my perspective view, and in which case I'm going to go to Control Vertex and sort of scale these in. And you'll notice I have it on object, not world. Just in case you're wondering, that's why it's on an angle like that. I'll bring this down, scale it in a little bit maybe. And it doesn't look like I actually have it snapped properly, so hold on. Okay. And maybe scale it down just slightly. And to make it maybe a little bit easier to grab, maybe I'll just sort of scale those out. Maybe these in. And that's going to be my jaw controller. Okay. I'm going to rename it jaw CTRL, already done. And then I'm going to modify freeze transformations. I'm also going to parent it to the head controller instead of the neck, because the head will also follow the neck and the jaw if I go ahead and do that. So you could see that there. Okay, so the controller will follow around with that. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I need to go ahead and start to connect it. So we've created the jaw joint, we've parented it to the head joint in the back of the skull, we created the jaw controller using the EP curve tool, and then we've also under 3 cubic, and then we've also snapped it into place, renamed everything, and now we're ready to connect it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I'm in my rigging tab, I'm going to select, I'm going to select the jaw controller, shift select the joint, and I'm going to go to constrain and orient. I'll hit the settings box, make sure this maintain offset is checked on, and hit add. Now this will control the rotation of the jaw. You don't see much happening yet, but believe me, it does make a subtle difference when animating. So from here, I'm going to use my set-driven key. So I'm going to switch, so I'm going to close this out. I'm going to switch so that have all my viewports available to me. And I'm going to begin to go to, I'm going to switch to my animation tab and go key, set driven key, and set. And from here, I'm going to select my jaw controller and load driver. And then I'm going to load the jaw joint as the driven. Now it gets a little weird here because XYZ in I don't want to call it real world, but in the Maya world here is different than the XYZ on joint world, if that makes sense. So the joints are going to animate on different translates than the controller will. So I can't just do translate X and translate X. It's going to be a little bit confusing because translate X might translate Z on the joint. So translate Z on controller might translate X on jaw joint. I know that sounded a little confusing, but bear with me. So I'm going to select my joint and I'm going to start by moving it left and right, and that's on my translate X. Now I'm going to select my joint and I'm going to slide that over, and that's going to be translate Z. So translate Z. Okay. Now, translate X on my jaw control will translate Z on jaw joint. So I'm going to go ahead and hit key, and then I'm going to drag this over, I'm going to say 0.25, and then on this one, I'm going to bring it over negative 0.25, and then I'm going to press key. So now my jaw controller should bring it just like so. Now I'm going to bring it left, negative 0.25, and on translate Z on this one, 0.25, and then I'm going to press key. So now I have my left and my right working. Alright. Left and right works. Okay. Now I'm going to do up and down. So up on this, now this could get confusing. Up is X and Y on this. So I need to highlight X and Y, and on this one it should just be Y, and it is. Translate Y. So the first thing, I'm going to have it zeroed out at here and press key, and now I'm going to bring it down, let's say negative 0.25, and in here on, I notice it's right here, the pivot on it, so right there, and I'm not going to be able to match this up. It's about right here. I'm going to press key. So now it should go up, and then when this is at 0, it should, there we go. Now I'm going to bring it up slightly, and we'll make it like, I'm going to exaggerate it to 0.1. Okay, and then my jaw joint here, I'm following this point here because it's on X and Y, and it gets a little about here, and then I'm going to press key. So now it can go up, down, and left and right. Okay, now the last two directions is backwards and forwards, because your jaw can do that. You can do a little overbite, a little underbite, and what I'm going to do here is check when I press the jaw joint, it's moving on X and Y also. But on here, on my jaw controller, it's just Z. So translate Z will control those. I'm going to press key, and now I'm going to bring this forward about to here, and then I'll bring this forward here and press key. I'll zero this now, and then I'll bring it back negative 0.1, and then I'll bring this one back, and I'm going to press key, and that's it, we're done. Okay, so now I'm going to close out of this, and my jaw should be able to move in all directions, and you see how that works? And because we have the rotation set, it will also rotate the jaw as well. And we won't notice the actual rotation until we bind the mesh to the skeleton or the joints. So that's all I have for creating the jaw joint and jaw controller. The next video we'll do is going to be animating the face, which will not include, we've already done the jaw and the eyes, so now we're going to get into actual facial expressions such as eyebrow movements, maybe a smile, so on and so forth. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that's a little confusing, but I hope you can kind of grasp it. If you have any questions, inbox me, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.